There's obviously been a lot of talk in the last few weeks about whether Verstappen should stay at Red Bull or leave and go to another team. And I just wanted to give my opinion on this matter and why I think that he should leave Red Bull. The first big reason is that Red Bull is not the same team as it was even 3 years ago, because they've had a lot of people leaving who were pretty instrumental in their success in the dominant years. So a few names that come to mind are Rob Marshall, who went to McLaren, Adrian Newey, who went to Aston Martin, and obviously Christian Horner, who wasn't so much a technical person, but was someone who organised it all and allowed Adrian Newey to kind of have his influence on the car. And obviously it takes a good team to build a car like the 2023 Red Bull, and losing all these names just means you lost a lot of expertise on different areas of the car. Rob Marshall was known for his work on the tyres, and that seemed to show up on the 2025 McLaren, which had just insanely good tyre wear. Adrian Newey's achievements speak for himself, even though the Aston Martin this year isn't really showing his kind of genius throughout his career, but not having him on the team after having him for so long must have had a big impact on how they work. Another reason that I think Verstappen should leave Red Bull is that they're not going to be able to make a lot of meaningful improvements on their power unit because they did not qualify for the Adiro resources for next year or for the rest of this year, because apparently their internal combustion engine is the best on the grid. And for some stupid reason, that is the only way they measure it. They don't measure any of the hybrid components. So the deficit that Red Bull have with the hybrid components and other parts of the power unit that aren't the internal combustion engine doesn't matter. So they're not even going to be able to improve it. So they can make all the meaningful improvements on the chassis side that they want. They're always going to be held back by that until, I guess, the others catch up and overtake them on the engine side and they can start developing. But there's reason to believe that other manufacturers will hold back power on their engine so that they can't qualify for it. On the other hand, if you went to McLaren, for example, the Mercedes somehow have qualified for it. So they're going to be able to make some improvements, which they're apparently saving for next year when they can make some bigger changes. Another question that I think Verstappen should be asking are the current staff at Red Bull good enough? Now, I'm not talking about all the individual engineers because you have to be pretty good to get into F1, but I'm talking about more of the organisation from the top. Laurent Mekies came from Ferrari. He was at Ferrari in 2022. During the clown show, he was actually the sporting director overseeing that. I don't think this guy comes with a CV from he wasn't the head of a winning team or anything. He might be more of a technical guy, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a good organiser of people, which is what the team principal role is. And I think we're seeing that a bit with Adrian Newey now, where he would probably be better off on the car side as opposed to trying to run the team. There's obviously also been questions raised over the technical director, Pierre Weish. Personally, I think he's been a bit of a scapegoat. I think they were working on last year's car for a long time, which is why they came to this year a bit underprepared on the chassis side. But then at the same time, they've had to remove the Macarena wing on their car for this Spa weekend because it doesn't work. Apparently they got a fix coming for Hungary, but we'll have to wait and see if that actually holds true and if they are going to be able to fix it. So that's a question that he needs to ask. Have they still got the staff at the top to succeed? With more and more leaving every year, it seems. And obviously a big blow will be his race engineer GP leaving to go to McLaren, obviously a team that he has been linked with. Another case, which is not so specific to Red Bull, but it's that usually after a somewhat dominant era, teams need to go through a bit of a rebuild, likely because staff leaving. They need to re-review all their processes and try and create new working methods to work without the staff that have left and to work with the new staff that have come in. And that can take a long time. And that can include upgrading facilities, which luckily they do have a new wind tunnel coming online at the start of next year. And I believe will help with the first upgrades on the 2027 car. But again, that's a gamble, because if that doesn't work, then Verstappen's stuck there for another year. Does he want to stay there for another year in case they make an even more midfield car, perhaps? And last but not least, you need to look at the alternative teams. It seems the Mercedes door is shut now because apparently they're happy with the current lineup. It makes sense because Antonelli's doing a good job. And Russell has been having deployment issues apparently, which could have scuppered his progress a bit in terms of mounting a title challenge. But the door there seems to be shut. The other door, open at the moment, is McLaren. McLaren seem to have a car that's somewhat there. For some weekends it's very good. At some weekends it's very bad. But you also need to think about the team dynamics at McLaren. You know, I don't think you can see Verstappen following the whole papaya rules kind of philosophy like they had last year. And I think in race trim, Norris would give him a bigger challenge than the teammates he's had in the last few years, because I mean, this year so far, Hadjar's been hopeless in race trim for some reason. But I don't think that would be the primary concern for him, because I think he has the confidence in his abilities that he knows he would go and be able to beat Lando. And this is all assuming Piastri leaves, by the way, which for me would just be a certain. Aston Martin was, of course, an alternative last year, but with the way the season's gone, there's kind of no guarantee they're going to be getting out of their hole anytime soon. So it really depends on if Verstappen can see himself fitting in at McLaren and if he thinks they can provide a good car within the next few years, really. And of course, they also have opportunities outside of F1 if he wanted to go and do that instead. So that's my thoughts on if Verstappen should leave Red Bull. Subscribe if you enjoyed.